The message came from a dead world. It traveled through space for 10,000 years before it reached the Empire. The message was simple. It was a warning. It said only this: do not strike the humans first. Never, under any situation, do not be the first to draw blood. Admiral of the High Fleet read the message 3 times. Then he laughed. He was tall for a with gray skin and 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. His eyes were black and cold, like stones at the bottom of a frozen river. He had conquered 12 worlds. He had burned cities and broken armies. He did not believe in warnings from dead civilizations. "Who sent this?" he asked his assistant. "We do not know, Admiral. The civilization that sent it no longer exists. Their world is dust now. Only their warning stations remain, floating in empty space. And they want us to fear these humans," showed his teeth in what passed for a smile among his kind. "I have seen the reports. Humans are soft, they have no claws, no scales, no natural weapons, they die easily." "The warning is very old, Admiral. Perhaps there is wisdom in it." "There is no wisdom in fear," said, "only weakness." He deleted the message and turned his attention to the planet below. It was called New Haven by the humans who lived there. It was a small colony on the edge of human space. 20,000 humans lived in its valleys and hills. They farmed the land. They raised their children. They built homes and schools and hospitals. They did not know that death waited above them in the dark. Had chosen this world carefully. It was far from human military bases. Help would take weeks to arrive. By then, his work would be finished. He would take this world and use its people as slaves. The Empire always needed more workers for its mines and factories. "Begin the attack," he ordered. The ships dropped from the sky like falling stars. They came in the early morning when the sun was just rising over the mountains. The humans had no warning. Their small defense stations were destroyed in the first minute. Their communication towers fell in the second minute. By the third minute, the soldiers were landing in the streets. Was sleeping when the first explosion shook his house. He was 28 years old, a teacher at the local school. He was not a soldier. He had never fired a weapon in his life. But when he heard the screaming outside, something changed inside him. Something old and dark woke up in his chest. He ran to the window and saw the ships burning holes in the sky. He saw buildings falling. He saw people running and dying in the streets. He saw a soldier grab a child and throw her aside like garbage. He shouted. His wife came running from the bedroom. She was a doctor at the colony hospital. She was kind and gentle and spent her days helping others. But when she saw what was happening outside, her face became hard as stone. "We need to go," she said, "now. The children at the school." "The school is gone. I can see it burning from here." Felt something break inside him. He had taught those children. He had watched them grow. He had helped them learn to read and write and dream of futures they would never have now. "Then we fight," he said. "We run first," said. "We survive first, then we fight." They gathered what they could carry: food, water, medicine from some emergency kit, a knife from the kitchen. They moved through the back streets, avoiding the main roads where the soldiers marched. The sounds of battle filled the air, screams and explosions and the strange clicking language of the. They found hiding behind a burning transport vehicle. He was an engineer who worked on the colony's power systems. He was bleeding from a cut on his head, but his eyes were clear and focused. "They killed everyone at the power station," he said. "Everyone. They did not even ask us to surrender. They just started shooting." "They do not want surrender," said. "They want slaves." "Then they will not have me," said. He picked up a metal pipe from the ground. "I will die before I become their property." "You will not die today," said. "None of us will. We need to reach the mountains. There are caves there, places to hide." They moved together through the dying colony. They saw things that would stay with them forever. A mother holding her dead child. An old man standing in the ruins of his home, too shocked to move. A young girl crying over the body of her father wanted to stop and help them all, but pulled him forward. "We cannot save everyone," she said, "but we can make them pay for this, later, when we are ready." The soldiers did not chase them. Why would they? The humans were soft and weak. They had no weapons. They were running into the wilderness to die slowly instead of dying quickly. They had more important things to do. They had a colony to strip bare. They had slaves to collect. They had buildings to burn. Admiral watched the destruction from his command ship. He was pleased. The attack had gone perfectly. Human resistance was almost non-existent. A few brave fools had tried to fight, but they were cut down easily. Their weapons were primitive. Their bodies were fragile. They died like all the other species they had conquered. "How many survivors?" he asked. "We estimate 3,000 humans escaped into the wilderness, Admiral. Mostly civilians. They have no supplies and no weapons. The cold nights will kill most of them within a week." "Good, let them suffer. It will teach the others to obey." He looked down at the burning colony and felt nothing but satisfaction. This was the natural order of things. The strong took from the weak. They were strong. The humans were weak. It was simple. But deep in the mountains, in a cold cave lit by a single small fire, something was beginning. Sat with his back against the stone wall. Was treating the wounds of the other survivors who had made it this far. There were maybe 50 of them. Old people, young people, children, all of them scared, all of them broken, all of them looking at him with eyes that asked the same question: "What do we do now?" Did not have an answer. He was a teacher, not a leader. He knew how to explain math and history and science. He did not know how to fight a war. But when he closed his eyes, he saw the children of his school. He saw them laughing and playing and asking him questions. He saw them dead now, their bodies lying in the ruins of the place where they should have been safe. Something cold settled in his heart. It was not fear. It was not sadness. It was something harder and sharper. It was the beginning of something they had never faced before. "They think we are finished," he said quietly. Looked up from the fire. "Are we not?" "No," his voice was soft but steady. "We are just beginning." "We have nothing," an old woman said. "No weapons, no soldiers, no ships. How can we fight them?" "We have something they do not understand," said. "We have patience, we have memory, we have hate." Finished bandaging a child's arm and came to sit beside her husband. She took his hand and held it tight. Her fingers were stained with blood from treating the wounded. Her eyes were tired but burning with the same cold fire that felt. "They think this is over," she said. "They think they won, but they do not know us. They do not know what we become when we are pushed too far." "What do we become?" the old woman asked. Looked at her with eyes that held no mercy. "Something that does not stop, something that does not forgive, something that will deny them every comfort, every victory, every final opportunity they might seek." Outside the cave, the night was cold and dark. The soldiers were celebrating their easy victory. They did not set many guards. Why would they? The humans were beaten. The humans were running. The humans were dying in the wilderness like animals. They did not notice the eyes watching them from the shadows. They did not see, and 3 other survivors crawling through the darkness toward their camp. They did not hear the soft sound of breathing as the humans counted their numbers and memorized their patrol patterns. They had received a warning from across 10,000 years of space. A warning from a civilization that had made the same mistake they were making now. A warning that said, "Do not strike the humans first." They had ignored it. And now, in the cold darkness of an alien world, surrounded by the ashes of everything they had built, the humans were beginning to show them why. Watched the camp for 3 hours. He did not move. He did not speak. He barely breathed. He was learning. He was planning. He was becoming something new. When he finally crawled back to the cave, was waiting for him. She did not ask what he had seen. She did not need to. She could see it in his eyes. "Tomorrow?" she asked. "Tomorrow," he said, "we begin." And in his heart, he made a promise to the dead children of his school. He made a promise to every human who had died that day. He made a promise that they would learn the true cost of their attack. They wanted an easy victory. They would get an endless war. They wanted slaves. They would get nightmares. They wanted to strike first. They would learn why that was the worst mistake anyone could ever make. The warning had tried to tell them. The dead civilization had tried to save them, but they had not listened. Now they would learn the hard way. Now the humans would teach them. 3 weeks passed after the attack on New Haven. Admiral expected the human survivors to surrender by now. He expected them to come crawling out of the mountains, begging for food and mercy. He expected to see their broken spirits and hear their desperate pleas. Instead, his soldiers started disappearing. The first one vanished on patrol near the eastern forest. His name was a young warrior on his first mission. He was supposed to return before sunset. He never did. His squad found his weapon the next morning, lying in the mud beside a stream. There was no body. There was no blood. There was only the weapon and a strange silence that filled the air. "Animals," his commander said. "The local predators must have taken him." But there were no predator tracks. There were no signs of a struggle. Had simply vanished as if the forest itself had swallowed him whole. The second soldier disappeared 2 days later. Then the third. Then 5 more in a single night. Each time the pattern was the same. No bodies, no blood, no witnesses, just empty armor and abandoned weapons left behind like messages written in silence. Admiral did not believe in ghosts. He did not believe in monsters. He believed in facts and logic and the power of superior weapons. But when his soldiers started refusing to go on patrol, he knew something was wrong. "Find them," he ordered. "Find whoever is doing this and bring them to me." His soldiers searched the forests and the mountains and the caves. They found nothing. The humans were invisible. They left no tracks. They made no sounds. They were like smoke, appearing and disappearing at will. But they were there. Oh, they were there. Had learned many things in 3 weeks. He had learned how to move through the forest without making noise. He had learned how to hide in shadows that seemed too small to hold a person. He had learned how to watch and wait and strike when the moment was perfect. Most importantly, he had learned how to make the afraid. "Fear is a weapon," he told the other survivors. "The most powerful weapon there is. A scared enemy makes mistakes. A scared enemy cannot think clearly. A scared enemy is already half defeated." They had started with small things, moving supplies in the night, leaving strange marks on trees near their camps, making sounds in the darkness that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The soldiers became nervous. They started seeing threats in every shadow. They stopped sleeping well. Then the disappearances began. Did not kill the first soldiers they captured. He did something worse. He kept them alive. He held them in a hidden cave deep in the mountains where no one could hear their screams. Not that they screamed much. The humans did not torture them. They simply kept them alone in the darkness, day after day, until their minds began to break. "Why are you doing this?" the first captured soldier asked. "Because you attacked us," said simply. "Because you killed our children, because you burned our homes. We were following orders." "So are we." The soldier did not understand. He could not understand. To them, war was simple. You fought, you won, you took what you wanted. Mercy was weakness. Surrender was expected. The losing side accepted their fate and moved on. But humans did not work that way. Had built something wonderful from the scraps they found in the wilderness. He called it a listener. It was a simple device that picked up communications. Night after night, he sat in the cave and listened to their enemy talking. "They are scared," he reported one evening. "Their soldiers are refusing to patrol alone. Their officers are arguing about what to do. Admiral is angry. He cannot understand what is happening." "Good," said. "She was treating a wound on his arm, a small cut from a sharp rock." Let them be confused. Confusion leads to fear. Fear leads to mistakes. When do we kill them? Asked a young man named Jin. He was barely 20 years old. He had watched his entire family die in the attack. His eyes were empty now, filled with nothing but cold purpose. Soon, said, but not yet. First, we break their spirit. We make them understand that they cannot win here. We make them understand that every day they stay on our world, more of them will vanish. And then we give them a choice, leave or die. Jin shook his head. I do not want them to leave. I want them dead, all of them. Some of them will die, said. Many of them. But killing is not our goal. Our goal is to make them regret ever coming here. Our goal is to make them suffer so much that they warn others. Our goal is to make sure no one ever attacks a human colony again. It was not an easy lesson to teach. Many of the survivors wanted blood. They wanted revenge. They wanted to see the suffer the way their families had suffered, understood this feeling. He felt it too, burning in his chest like a constant fire. But he also understood something deeper, something that they would never understand. Killing your enemy is quick. Breaking your enemy is forever. The weeks continued to pass. The death count rose slowly but steadily. A soldier here, an officer there. Sometimes the bodies were found. Sometimes they were not. Sometimes the humans left messages carved into trees or painted on rocks. Simple messages in the language, leave. You are not welcome. This is not your world. Admiral received reports of these messages and threw them across his command room in rage. How dare these primitive creatures threaten him? How dare they fight back against the mighty empire? He ordered more soldiers to patrol. He ordered more weapons to be deployed. He ordered his forces to burn the forests and flood the caves. But the humans always escaped. They always knew when they were coming. They always vanished before the attacks arrived. How demanded, how are they doing this? No one had an answer. They had better technology. They had better weapons. They had more soldiers. By every measure that mattered, they should have crushed these humans in days. But the humans kept fighting, and dying and vanishing and returning. Became the heart of their resistance. She healed the wounded and comforted the scared. She held the hands of dying survivors and whispered gentle words to them as they passed. She also learned how to kill, quickly and silently, when killing was necessary. I used to save lives, she told one night. They were sitting outside their cave watching the stars. That was my whole purpose. Now I take them. You are still saving lives, said. Our lives, human lives. Every soldier who dies is one less soldier who can hurt us. Does that make it right? I do not know, admitted. I am a teacher. I used to think about right and wrong in simple terms, but they changed the rules. They attacked us without warning. They killed our children. They gave us no choice. Leaned against him. What happens after this is over? I do not know that either. Maybe nothing is ever over. Maybe we just keep fighting forever. That sounds exhausting. Yes, but it is better than dying. It is better than becoming their slaves. The next morning, they received news that changed everything. Rushed into the cave with excitement in his eyes. Ships, he said, human ships, they are coming. For a moment, hope filled the cave like sunlight breaking through clouds. Human military forces were on their way. Help was coming. The nightmare would soon be over. But felt something cold in his stomach. Something that told him this was not the end. It was just the beginning of a new chapter. How long until they arrive? He asked. 2 weeks, maybe less. And they know they are preparing to leave. They are loading their ships with everything they can carry, including prisoners. The cold feeling in stomach became ice. Prisoners are people. Yes, they have maybe 200 humans in their camps. They plan to take them as slaves before the military arrives. Stood up slowly. He looked around the cave at the survivors who had become his family over the past weeks. They were tired and hungry and scared, but they were also strong. They had become something new, something they had never faced before. "Then we stop them," he said. "We save our people." "How?" Jin asked. "They have hundreds of soldiers. We have 50 people and some stolen weapons." "We have something better than weapons," said. "We have 3 weeks of fear, 3 weeks of confusion, 3 weeks of making them believe that death waits for them in every shadow. We use that fear now. We use it to break them completely." The plan was simple in theory and incredibly dangerous in practice. They would attack the camps simultaneously from multiple directions. They would not try to kill every soldier. They would create chaos and panic. They would make them believe they were surrounded by an army of ghosts. And in that chaos, they would free the prisoners. "Many of us will die," said quietly. She was not arguing against the plan. She was just stating a fact. "Yes," agreed, "but some of us will live, and our people in those camps will live, and they will learn a lesson they will never forget." "What lesson?" His eyes were hard as stone. "That humans do not surrender, that humans do not give up, that humans will fight until the last breath leaves their bodies, and that anyone who attacks us will pay a price so high they will spend the rest of their lives regretting it." The night before the attack, no one slept. They checked their weapons and reviewed their plans and said goodbye to each other in case they never met again. Some prayed to gods they had almost forgotten. Some wrote letters to loved ones who were already dead. Some simply sat in silence, preparing themselves for what was to come. Found standing at the entrance of the cave, looking up at the stars. "Are you ready?" he asked. "No," she said honestly, "but I am going anyway." He took her hand. "Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know something. These past weeks with you, fighting beside you, surviving beside you, they have been the most important weeks of my life." Smiled, but her eyes were wet. "We were supposed to grow old together, have children, watch them grow up and have children of their own. Maybe we still will." "Maybe," she squeezed his hand. "But if we do not, I want you to know something too. I do not regret any of this. I do not regret fighting. I do not regret becoming what we have become. They tried to break us. Instead, they made us stronger." They stood together in silence as the night passed and the first light of dawn began to color the sky. Somewhere in the distance, they could hear the sounds of the camp waking up, soldiers preparing for another day of occupation, officers giving orders, prisoners crying in their cages. Soon, very soon, everything would change. The humans were coming, not the military ships that were still weeks away. The humans who had survived, the humans who had hidden in the darkness and learned to fight, the humans who had been pushed too far and had nothing left to lose. The thought they had won this war. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The attack began at dawn. Fire erupted from 3 directions at once. Explosions rocked the camp as the humans detonated the fuel storage they had been secretly tampering with for days. Black smoke rose into the sky like a signal to the heavens, and in the chaos, the humans struck. They came from the forests like shadows given form. They moved between the panicking soldiers with deadly purpose. They did not fight like an army. They fought like ghosts, appearing and disappearing, striking and vanishing before they could respond. Led the main group toward the prisoner cages. His heart was pounding in his chest, but his hands were steady. He had trained for this moment. He had prepared for this moment. He had been waiting for this moment since the day they burned his school. A soldier stepped into his path. The alien was bigger than him, stronger than him, armed with better weapons, but did not hesitate. He ducked under the soldier's first strike and drove his knife into the gap between the alien's armor plates. The fell with a sound like breaking glass. "Keep moving," shouted. "Do not stop for anything." Around him, his people fought with a ferocity that surprised even themselves. They were not trained soldiers. They were teachers and farmers and engineers and doctors. But they had lost everything, and that loss had transformed them into something terrifying. Reached the prisoner cages first. The humans inside were thin and weak, but their eyes lit up with hope when they saw her face. "We are here to free you," she said quickly. "Can you run?" "We can try," an old man said. His voice was rough from days of screaming. "We can try anything to get away from them." Arrived with the cutting tools he had made from stolen equipment, he worked quickly, slicing through the locks on the cages. One by one, the prisoners stumbled out into the smoky morning air. "Go toward the mountains," told them. "Follow the stream. There are people waiting to guide you to safety." The prisoners ran. Some fell and were helped up by others. Some could barely walk and had to be carried. But they moved, driven by hope and fear and the desperate need to survive. Admiral stood in his command ship, watching the chaos below with disbelief. This was impossible. The humans were supposed to be broken. They were supposed to be dying in the wilderness. They were not supposed to be attacking his camp with military precision. "How many attackers?" he demanded. "We cannot tell, Admiral. They are everywhere. Our soldiers report seeing hundreds of them." But there were not hundreds. There were barely 40. They just moved so fast and struck so precisely that they seemed like an army. This was the power of fear. This was what 3 weeks of terror had created. The soldiers saw ghosts in every shadow, enemies in every corner. "Send the reinforcements," ordered. "Kill them all." But his reinforcements were having their own problems. The humans had set traps throughout the forest, along every path they might use. Mines made from stolen explosives, pits covered with leaves, wires that triggered landslides. The reinforcements lost a dozen soldiers before they even reached the camp. Jin fought with cold fury near the eastern edge of the camp. He had found the soldiers who had killed his family. He knew their faces from days of watching them, learning their patrol routes, memorizing their habits. Now he hunted them one by one. The first soldier died quickly, a knife across his throat before he even knew Jin was there. The second took longer. Jin could have killed him fast, but he did not want to. He wanted this one to know who was killing him and why. "My father begged you for mercy," Jin said as the soldier lay bleeding on the ground. "You laughed at him." "Please," the soldier gasped. "Please, I was following orders." "So am I." Jin did not give him a quick death. He walked away and left the soldier to bleed out slowly, alone and afraid. It was not merciful. It was not right. But Jin had stopped caring about right and wrong the day his family died. The battle lasted 2 hours. When it was over, they had lost 40 soldiers and all of their prisoners. The humans had lost 11 of their own, including a young woman named who had been assistant. Held her body and wept, but she did not stop working. She could not stop. There were too many wounded who needed her help. "We won," said. He sounded surprised, as if he had not truly believed it was possible. "We won this battle," corrected. "The war is not over, still has hundreds of soldiers, he still has his ships, and now he is angry." He was right. Admiral was more than angry. He was humiliated. He had been defeated by a handful of primitive creatures who should have been easy prey. His superiors in the Empire would hear about this failure. His career would be ruined. Unless he won. "Burn everything," he ordered. "Every tree, every cave, every hiding place. If the humans want to fight like animals, we will treat them like animals. We will burn their world to ash." His soldiers obeyed. The fires started that afternoon and spread quickly through the dry forests. Black smoke filled the sky for miles around. The temperature rose as flames consumed everything in their path. But the humans had prepared for this too. "The caves," said, "deep underground where the fire cannot reach. We move everyone there now." They gathered the survivors and the freed prisoners and led them deep into the mountain cave system. The air was cold and wet, but it was safe. The fire could not follow them here. The smoke could not reach them. For 3 days they waited in the darkness while their world burned above them. The children cried because they were scared. The adults held them and whispered comforting words they did not believe. Everyone was hungry. Everyone was tired. Everyone was wondering if this would ever end. On the fourth day, the fires died down, led a small group to the surface to see what remained. The forest was gone. Where trees had stood for centuries, there was now only black ash and scorched earth. The air smelled of smoke and death. Nothing moved in any direction. It looked like the end of the world. They destroyed everything, whispered, everything. But saw something else. He saw opportunity. They think they won, he said. They think the fire killed us. Let them think that. Let them believe we are dead. What do we do now? We become ghosts for real. We move at night. We strike from the ashes. We make them believe this dead land is haunted by the spirits of everyone they killed. It was a desperate plan. It was almost certainly suicidal, but it was all they had. That night the soldiers celebrated their victory. They believed the fire had solved their problem. They believed the humans were finally dead. They drank and laughed and told stories about the foolish creatures who had tried to resist the mighty empire. They did not see the shadows moving through the ash-covered landscape. They did not hear the soft footsteps approaching their camp. They did not notice when one of their sentries disappeared into the darkness, replaced by a patch of disturbed ash and a single bloody handprint on a rock. The next morning they found him. He was not dead. He was sitting at the edge of the camp, staring at nothing, unable to speak or respond to questions. His mind was simply gone, shattered by something that had happened in the night. What happened to him? A young soldier asked. No one had an answer, but everyone had the same fear growing in their hearts. The humans were not dead. The humans were still out there. The humans would never stop. Admiral ordered double patrols and triple guards. He ordered floodlights to illuminate every corner of the camp at night. He ordered his soldiers to shoot at any movement, any shadow, any sound. But the attacks continued. Every night another soldier disappeared. Every morning they were found somewhere new, alive but broken. Their eyes were empty. Their minds were shattered. Whatever the humans had done to them had destroyed them more completely than death ever could. We should leave, one of his officers finally said. The human military will be here in days. We can retreat and preserve our forces. Retreat, his voice was dangerous. I do not retreat, I conquer. Admiral, with respect, there is nothing left to conquer here. The colony is destroyed. The forest is ash. And our soldiers are being taken one by one. If we stay, we will lose everything. Wanted to argue. He wanted to order the officer executed for cowardice. But he looked at the reports on his desk and saw the truth. His force had lost almost 100 soldiers. Morale was collapsed. His troops were jumping at shadows and refusing to sleep. The humans had won. Not through military might, not through superior weapons. They had won through terror. They had won through patience. They had won by showing that some enemies cannot be conquered, only survived. Prepare the ships, said finally. Each word felt like swallowing broken glass. We leave tomorrow. But before he could give the final order, a message arrived. It was delivered by one of his broken soldiers, the ones who had been captured and returned as empty shells. The soldier walked into the command room, placed a small device on his desk, and collapsed. The device was a communication unit, modified to display a single message in glowing letters. We want to talk, the message said. You and us, face to face. No weapons, no guards. Come to the old colony center at midnight. Come alone, or we will show you what we have been holding back. Stared at the message for a long time. His pride demanded that he ignore it. His fear demanded that he run. But somewhere deep inside him, something else was growing. Something that might have been curiosity. Something that might have been respect. He had underestimated these humans. He had dismissed them as weak and soft. He had thought they would be easy prey. He had been wrong. And now, whether he liked it or not, he needed to understand just how wrong he had been. I will go, he said quietly. I will meet with them. His officers looked at him in shock. "Admiral, it is clearly a trap." "Perhaps, but I need to see them. I need to look into their eyes and understand what kind of creatures we have been fighting. Because whatever they are not the weak animals I thought they were." He stood up and walked toward the door. "If I do not return by dawn," he said, "leave this world and never come back." And with those words, he stepped into the night to meet his enemies. The ones who had taught him something he never expected to learn. The ones who had shown him that some prey fights back. The ones who would now decide his fate. The humans. The colony center was a ruin now. Where buildings had once stood tall and proud, only broken walls remained. Where children had once played in the streets, only ash and debris covered the ground. Admiral walked through the destruction and felt something he had not expected to feel. Doubt. He had destroyed hundreds of worlds in his career. He had broken countless civilizations and enslaved millions of beings. It had never bothered him before. The strong conquered the weak. That was the natural order. That was the way of the universe. But standing in the ruins of New Haven, surrounded by the ghosts of the people who had lived and died here, began to wonder if he had made a terrible mistake. "Admiral." The voice came from the shadows, spun around, his hand moving toward the weapon he was not supposed to be carrying, but he stopped when he saw them. There were 5 humans standing in the moonlight, 3 men and 2 women. They looked thin and tired, covered in ash and dirt. Their clothes were torn and stained with blood. They should have looked weak and defeated. They did not. Their eyes burned with something had never seen before. It was not anger, though anger was part of it. It was not hate, though hate was there too. It was something deeper and darker. Something that made him feel, for the first time in his life, like prey instead of predator. "I am," the man in front said. "I was a teacher here. I taught the children who died in your attack." "I am," the woman beside him said. "I was a doctor. I tried to save the people your soldiers killed." "I am," another man said. "I built things. Your soldiers destroyed everything I built." The other 2 did not introduce themselves. They simply stood there, watching with eyes that held no mercy. "You wanted to meet," said. His voice was steady, but his hearts were beating faster than normal. "Here I am. What do you want?" Took a step forward. "We want you to leave. We want you to take your soldiers and your ships and go. We want you to never come back." "And if I refuse?" "Then we will kill every soldier you have. One by one, night after night. We will take them apart piece by piece until there is nothing left of your army but broken minds and empty armor." Wanted to laugh. This was absurd. He had hundreds of soldiers, and these humans had maybe a few dozen survivors. How could they possibly threaten him? But then he remembered the past weeks, the disappearances, the fear, the broken soldiers who returned with shattered minds. He remembered the fire that should have killed them and the attacks that continued anyway. He remembered the message from the dead civilization. "Do not strike the humans first. You cannot defeat us," he said, but his voice was not as strong as he wanted it to be. "We do not need to defeat you," said. "We just need to make you suffer. We just need to make your soldiers afraid to sleep. We just need to keep fighting until you decide that this world is not worth the cost. The human military will be here in days. You could simply wait for them to save you." "We could," his voice was cold, "but that would let you escape. That would let you run back to your empire and tell stories about your victory here. We do not want that. We want you to go home with nothing. No slaves, no resources, no glory, just the memory of what happened when you attacked the wrong species." Looked at the 5 humans in front of him. They were standing perfectly still, like statues carved from stone. No fear showed on their faces. No doubt clouded their eyes. They were ready to die, and they did not care. That was what scared him most. "Why?" he asked suddenly. "Why do you fight so hard? Other species surrender when they are beaten. They accept their fate and move on. Why are you different?" considered the question for a long moment. Then he answered, "Because we do not forget. Other species might forgive. They might let go of the past and look toward the future. We cannot. Every wrong done to us stays with us forever. Every death, every injustice, every attack, it all stays here." He touched his chest. "It burns. It never stops burning. And the only way to make it stop is to make sure the people who hurt us can never hurt anyone again." That sounds like madness. Perhaps, but it is what we are. We are a species built on memory and revenge. We remember our heroes for thousands of years. We remember our enemies even longer. We write songs about battles fought centuries ago. We tell stories about wrongs that happened before any of us were born. We are patient and we are stubborn and we never ever stop. Stood in silence for a long time. He thought about his career and his conquests. He thought about all the species he had crushed without a second thought. None of them had been like this. None of them had fought back so fiercely after being so thoroughly defeated. "What if I surrender?" he asked quietly. The question surprised everyone, including himself. "Surrender?" His voice was sharp. "You want to surrender to us?" "I want this to end. I want my soldiers to stop dying. I want to leave this world and forget it ever existed." Shook his head slowly. "We do not accept surrender." "What?" "You heard me. We do not accept your surrender. You do not get to walk away from this with your honor intact. You do not get to pretend this was a fair fight that you lost. You attacked us without warning. You killed our children. You burned our homes. And now you want to surrender." Felt cold. "Then what do you want?" "I want you to beg." The words hung in the air like ice, stared at with disbelief. In his entire life he had never begged for anything. He was an admiral of the empire. He was a conqueror of worlds. He did not beg. "Never," he said. "Then we will keep fighting," said simply. "We will keep taking your soldiers. We will keep breaking their minds. We will keep showing you what happens when you attack humans. And when your fleet is reduced to nothing, when you are the last one left, we will capture you too. And we will not kill you. We will do something much worse." "What?" "We will let you live. We will let you go back to your empire with nothing. No army, no glory, no honor, just the memory of what happened here. Just the knowledge that you were beaten by creatures you thought were weak. You will spend the rest of your life being laughed at, and you will never command again. You will never conquer again. You will be nothing but a warning to others." Felt the truth of these words like a knife in his gut. This was not about winning or losing. This was about something deeper. This was about humiliation. This was about making him pay for his crimes in a way that would last forever. "You are cruel," he whispered. "Yes," agreed. "We are. You made us this way." The meeting ended without agreement. Walked back to his camp with heavy steps. His mind was spinning with everything he had heard. These humans were not like any enemy he had ever faced. They did not fight for territory or resources or power. They fought because they had been hurt, and they would not stop until everyone who hurt them had paid the price. The next 2 days were the worst of his life. The attacks continued, but they were different now. The humans were not just taking soldiers anymore. They were sending messages. They carved words into the ground outside the camp. They hung pieces of armor from dead trees like decorations. They played recordings of human children laughing in the darkness, echoing through the burned forest like ghosts. The soldiers began to crack. Some refused to fight. Some tried to run. Some simply sat down and wept, unable to handle the constant pressure. Watched his army fall apart and knew there was nothing he could do to stop it. On the morning of the 3rd day, the human military finally arrived. The ships came out of the sky like angry gods. They were massive warships, far more powerful than anything they had brought. They surrounded the camp and issued a simple order: "Surrender or be destroyed." Looked at his broken army. He looked at the ruins of the colony. He looked at the burned forest and the empty sky. Then he did something he had never done before. He surrendered. But not to the military. not to the powerful ships that hovered above him. He surrendered to the survivors. He walked out of his camp with his hands raised and knelt in the ash before, and in the others who had fought so hard. "I am sorry," he said. The words felt strange in his mouth. He had never apologized for anything in his life. Looked down at him without expression. Sorry does not bring back the dead. Sorry does not rebuild our homes. Sorry does not heal the wounds you caused. I know, but it is all I have left. For a long moment, no one spoke. The human military officers watched from their ships, waiting to see what would happen. The survivors watched with eyes full of pain and anger and something that might have been satisfaction. Finally spoke. "Get up." Rose slowly. His legs felt weak. His pride was gone. He was just a broken old soldier who had learned a lesson too late. "We are not going to kill you," said. "We are not going to torture you. We are going to do exactly what we promised. We are going to let you go." "Why?" "Because dead enemies are forgotten. Living enemies remember. And we want you to remember this for the rest of your life. We want you to tell everyone you meet what happened here. We want you to be a warning to the entire galaxy." Stepped closer until his face was inches from us. "Do not strike the humans first. Never, under any situation. Because if you do, we will not give you the mercy of death. We will deny you every final opportunity. We will leave you alive to suffer with the knowledge of what you have done." Said nothing. There was nothing to say. The human military took him and his surviving soldiers into custody. They would be tried for their crimes and punished according to human law, but knew that no punishment would be worse than what he was already feeling. The shame, the regret, the knowledge that he had been wrong about everything. He had thought humans were weak. He had been so terribly wrong. 5 years passed after the Battle of New Haven. The Empire did not survive the scandal. When news of defeat spread through the galaxy, other species began to question power. Rebellions started on conquered worlds. Alliances crumbled. Trade agreements were canceled. Within 3 years, the mighty empire that had ruled 100 star systems was reduced to a handful of struggling colonies. Watched it all happen from his cell. The humans had not executed him. They had not tortured him. They had simply put him in a small room with a window and left him there. Every day, guards brought him food and water. Every week, doctors checked his health. Every month, officials visited to update him on the collapse of everything he had built. It was the punishment imaginable. "Why do you keep me alive?" he asked one of the guards one day. "Why not just kill me and be done with it?" The guard, a young woman with kind eyes, looked at him without anger. "Because dead people cannot learn. Dead people cannot change. Dead people cannot warn others." "Is that what I am? A warning?" "That is exactly what you are." Spent his days thinking. He thought about his life and his choices. He thought about the species he had conquered and the worlds he had destroyed. He thought about the warning from the dead civilization that he had ignored. "Do not strike the humans first." He understood now. He understood why that warning had been sent across 10,000 years of space. He understood why a civilization had used its dying breath to send that message. He understood what humans really were. They were not weak. They were not soft. They were not easy prey. They were something far more dangerous. They were a species that never forgot, never forgave, and never stopped. They were patient and stubborn and absolutely relentless. They could wait years, decades, centuries for revenge, and when they finally struck back, they did not aim to kill. They aimed to destroy. Not bodies, not cities, not armies. They aimed to destroy the thing that mattered most to any warrior: pride, honor, the belief that you were strong and right and unstoppable. The humans took all of that away and left nothing behind but shame and regret. After 3 years in his cell, asked to speak with someone from the human government. A woman came to visit him. She was old now, with gray hair and tired eyes, but he recognized her immediately. "Yes, you survived," he said. Yes, we rebuilt. Not just the colony, but ourselves. It took time, but we are stronger now than we were before. And he died 2 years ago. His injuries from the fight never fully healed. His body simply gave out one day. Her voice was steady, but could see the pain in her eyes. He is buried on New Haven, in a garden we planted where the school used to stand. Was quiet for a long moment. I am sorry, truly, for everything. I know, sat down across from him. That is why I came. We have been watching you, reading your interviews, listening to what you tell other prisoners. You have changed. I had no choice. After what happened, I could not be the same person I was before. No, you could not, she paused. We have a proposal for you. Looked at her with surprise. A proposal. The galaxy is unstable right now. The Empire is gone, but other powers are rising. Some of them are making the same mistakes you made. They look at humans and see weak creatures, easy targets, prey. They are wrong. Yes, but they do not know that yet. They will learn eventually, just as you learned. But many people will die in the process, humans and others. We want to prevent that if we can. How? By sending you as a messenger. You were one of the most feared admirals in the galaxy. Your name carried weight and power. Now you can use that reputation for something different. You can tell them what happened here. You can warn them about what humans really are. You can save lives instead of taking them. Stared at her. You want me to help you? I want you to help everyone, including yourself. Is that not what you want? A chance to make something good from all the terrible things you did. He thought about it for a long time. He thought about his pride and his shame. He thought about the lives he had taken and the empire he had helped destroy. He thought about the long, empty years stretching ahead of him in this cell, with nothing but regret for company. Yes, he said finally, yes, I will do it. And so began the second act of Admiral's life. He traveled across the galaxy with human guards and human translators. He visited the courts of rising empires and the councils of ambitious warlords. He stood before crowds of soldiers and told them his story. He showed them the scars on his body and the emptiness in his eyes. He told them about the attack on New Haven. He told them about the fires and the disappearances and the broken soldiers. He told them about the humans who fought from the shadows and never gave up. He told them about his surrender and his shame. And he told them the warning. Do not strike the humans first, he said over and over to anyone who would listen. Never, under any situation, because if you do, you will not just face their weapons. You will face something far worse. You will face their memory. You will face their patience. You will face their refusal to ever let go. They will not give you the mercy of a quick death. They will deny you every final opportunity. They will leave you alive to suffer, to remember, to carry the weight of your mistakes for the rest of your days. I know this because I am living proof. I am the warning that a dead civilization tried to send across the stars. I am the lesson that no one believed until it was too late. Some people listened. Some did not. Some attacked human colonies anyway, thinking they knew better, thinking they were stronger, thinking they could succeed where others had failed. They all learned the same lesson in the end. On the 10th anniversary of the Battle of New Haven, a memorial was built where the colony had once stood. It was a simple structure, just a wall of stone with names carved into it. The names of everyone who had died. The names of everyone who had fought. The names of everyone who had survived. Was there for the ceremony. She was very old now, walking with a cane, but her eyes were still clear and sharp. She stood before the wall and looked at the names of her friends, her patients, her students, her husband. We remember, she said to the gathered crowd. That is what we do. We remember the dead and we honor their sacrifice. We remember the pain and we use it to make ourselves stronger. We remember the enemies who hurt us and we make sure they never hurt anyone again. She paused and looked toward the horizon, where the burned forest had into something new and beautiful. They thought we were weak because We do not have claws or scales or natural weapons. They thought we were easy prey because we die easily. They did not understand that our greatest strength has nothing to do with our bodies. Our greatest strength is in here. She touched her heart. It is our ability to remember, to learn, to grow, to never give up no matter how bad things get. It is our ability to turn pain into purpose and loss into determination. That is why you should never strike us first, because you might win the first battle. You might kill many of us. You might burn our homes and destroy our cities, but you will never destroy who we are. And we will come for you, not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. We will find you and we will show you exactly what you created when you hurt us. We will deny you every victory, every comfort, every final opportunity. Because that is what humans do. The ceremony ended as the sun set over New Haven. The crowd slowly departed, leaving only standing alone before the wall. She reached out and touched one name in particular. "Yes. We did it," she whispered. "We survived, we rebuilt, we showed them who we really are." She stood there until the stars came out, remembering everything. The attack, the fire, the fighting, the victory, the long years of peace that followed. Then she smiled and turned away. Behind her, the memorial stood silent under the stars, a reminder of what had happened here, a warning to anyone who might see it. The humans had built it, as they built everything, with patience and determination and an absolute refusal to be broken. And in its stone walls, carved in letters that would last for centuries, was the same message that had traveled across 10,000 years of space from a civilization that had learned the hard way. Do not strike the humans. They will deny you every final opportunity, even the opportunity to be forgotten, even the opportunity to be forgiven, even the opportunity to die. This was their nature. This was their strength. This was their curse and their blessing and everything in between. They were human. And they remembered. Forever,